Okay, let me just sit here for a second before I start, because the energy coming through for this one is different. It's quieter, more personal. Almost like I wasn't supposed to say this out loud, but something just told me no, they need to hear it exactly like this. So here's what happened. A few days ago, I was sitting with a client, one-on-one reading, private session, and about 15 minutes in, she just broke down. Not the kind of crying that builds up gradually, the sudden kind, the kind that surprises even the person doing it. And through the tears, she said something that I have not been able to stop thinking about since. She said, I keep wondering if he even thinks about me. I keep wondering if any of it was real for him. And then, almost in the same breath, she said, but I won't reach out. I won't break no contact. I just need to know that somewhere, somehow, he feels something. And I sat across from her, and the cards were already on the table. And what I saw in that spread, what was coming through about the masculine energy she was asking about, I had to take a breath before I could say it. Because it was a lot. It was more than she was prepared for. And what came through is almost exactly what is coming through in this reading tonight. Almost word for word. So, if you are a divine feminine in no contact right now, if you are the one who chose to stop reaching out, stop explaining yourself, stop being available in the ways you used to be, this reading is specifically for you. And if you have been sitting in that silence, wondering whether any of it is landing on the other side, wondering whether they feel it, wondering whether walking away actually did anything, I need you to stay with me through every single card tonight. Because what just got exposed about you on their end is something you were not expecting to hear. Let's pull these cards. Spirit has been on me about this reading all day. Card 1, the Empress reversed. Okay, oh wow. This card in this position is telling me something very specific about what the divine masculine is experiencing right now in relation to you. And I want to be precise about this because I know a lot of you have been in your head wondering whether the silence is even registering on their end, whether they've just moved on, whether the no contact is something they've noticed or something they've simply shrugged off and replaced. The Empress reversed is not their card tonight. This is what they are missing. This is the energy that has been removed from their life since you stepped back. And, collective, the Empress energy is no small thing to lose access to. Here is what the Empress represents when she is upright. She is warmth. She is the person in a room that makes everyone around them feel more comfortable just by being present. She is the one who remembered your coffee order and brought it without being asked, who checked in when you went quiet, who made ordinary moments feel significant, who brought a softness to hard days that you didn't even know you were depending on until it was gone. She is abundance in the emotional sense, not just love, but the specific texture of being loved by someone who does it naturally, who does it without keeping score, who does it because that is simply who they are. That was you in this connection. That is what you were bringing to this person's life, probably for longer than they ever acknowledged or appreciated while it was happening. Now let me give you a specific example so this lands where it needs to land. There is a woman named Simone. Simone was in a situationship, and I use that word specifically because there was never a real label, never a clear commitment, which meant Simone was always giving without a container to hold what she was giving into. She cooked for this man, not occasionally. Regularly, she remembered the names of his coworkers and asked about them. She showed up to things that mattered to him. She made space in her schedule, in her home, in her emotional energy for this person in ways that were so consistent and so thorough that they became invisible to him. The way good lighting in a room becomes invisible, you stop noticing it until someone turns it off. Simone went into no contact 4 months ago. Not dramatically. She didn't send a long message. She didn't explain herself. She just stopped. Stopped initiating. Stopped being available on demand. Stopped filling the silences he left. And what happened on his end in those 4 months was something she had not anticipated. He started noticing things. Not her, specifically, at first. He started noticing the absence of the things she used to do. The absence of someone checking in. The absence of warmth in his day that he had been unconsciously consuming like a resource without ever acknowledging its source. He started sitting in his apartment on evenings that used to have a certain texture to them and feeling a flatness that he couldn't immediately name. He started reaching for his phone to text her about something that happened and then remembering, and the remembering felt like a small collision every time. That is the Empress reversed in their world right now. What was just exposed about you is not something dramatic. It is something quiet and enormous. What was exposed is that you were the warmth. You were the softness. You were the thing that made ordinary life feel livable. And they did not know that until you removed it. Card 2, the Hierophant, hold on. Wait, okay. Because this card is saying something I was not expecting, and it is so specific I need to take a second before I speak on it. The Hierophant in a divine masculine reading, during no contact, speaks to something that is happening internally for them, on a belief level, not an emotional level, not a romantic feelings level, a belief level. Something about who they thought they were in relation to you has just been fundamentally challenged. And that is a very different kind of impact than just missing someone. Here's what I mean by that. Most divine masculines, particularly the ones who ended up in these kinds of complex connections with divine feminines, carry a very specific story about themselves that operates underneath everything else. The story usually goes something like this. I am the one who decides. I am the one who moves at my own pace. I am the one who chooses when to engage and when to pull back and the other person waits. I am not someone who can be left. I am not someone who gets cut off. I am not someone who has to wonder. Your no contact just broke that story. Quietly, completely, and without any confrontation whatsoever. And that is actually more destabilizing for this type of person than any argument or emotional confrontation could ever be. Let me give you a scenario. There's a man named Derek. Derek is 38. He has a pattern in his connections, not a conscious pattern, but a deep-seated one of keeping a certain emotional distance that allows him to feel safe. He never fully commits, but he never fully lets go either. He keeps people at a precise distance that serves him. Close enough that the connection doesn't end. Far enough that he never has to be truly vulnerable. It's a system he's been running since his early 20s, and it has worked so consistently that it has become invisible to him. He doesn't even know it's a system. He just thinks it's how he is. And then he ran this system with a woman who eventually stopped playing her assigned role in it. She stopped being the one who waited at the appropriate distance. She removed herself entirely. And Derek found himself in a situation his internal operating system had no protocol for. He was used to being the one who controlled the proximity. Suddenly, the proximity was being controlled by someone else entirely, and there was nothing he could do about it. He started questioning things he had not questioned in years. Whether his pattern of holding people at a distance was actually freedom, or whether it was fear dressed up as independence. Whether the connection with her had been more significant than he had allowed himself to acknowledge while it was active. Whether the fact that he was thinking about this at all meant something about him that he was not comfortable sitting with. That is the Hierophant. The belief system cracking open. The internal story meeting its first real challenge. What was just exposed about you to this divine masculine is not just that they miss you. It is that you were significant enough, real enough, worth enough, that your absence has started asking them questions they cannot answer comfortably. That is not nothing. That is enormous. Card 3-3 of Swords, reversed O. Okay, this one. All right. The 3 of Swords upright is heartbreak, pain, the thing that cuts. But reversed, and pay attention to this. Because the reversal is everything in this card tonight, the 3 of Swords reversed, is the processing of that pain. It is what happens after the acute moment of loss, when the person is sitting with what they actually feel, instead of what they told themselves they felt. And what this card is showing me about the divine masculine energy right now is something they would probably not admit to anyone in their physical world. They are processing grief, real grief, over this connection and specifically over a version of you that they are only now beginning to fully see. Here is the thing about divine masculines in connections like this one. They are often operating on delay. What they feel in real time is one thing. What they actually understand about what they felt, the full scope of it, the full weight of it, that understanding comes later. Sometimes, much later. And the Three of Swords reversed says that for this specific person, that later is now. Let me give you a real example. Her name is Camille, and she had been in an on and off connection for 2 years with someone who was emotionally inconsistent in ways that were exhausting. Good when he was present, absent in ways that were inexplicable when he wasn't. And Camille finally, after 2 years, stopped engaging. Full no contact. She did not explain it as a strategy. She did it because she was genuinely done and her own peace required it. What she did not know was what was happening on his end in the weeks that followed. He went through a very specific sequence. First, a kind of surface level unbothered energy, almost a relief, his words, which he would later be ashamed of. Then, a restlessness. Then a reaching for distractions that didn't quite distract. Then a very specific night, about 6 weeks in, where he was going through his phone for no real reason, and he landed on a voice note she had sent him 8 months earlier. Something mundane. She was in the grocery store, asking if he needed anything. And he listened to it 4 times. And the 4th time, he just sat there with his phone in his hand and felt something he hadn't let himself feel at full volume in a very long time. He was grieving. Not the idea of her. Her, the specific her, the voice, the consideration, the particular way she had of making him feel like he mattered without ever making a production of it. He was grieving the version of her that he had not been careful enough with. And in that grief, something was being exposed. Something about who he had been in that connection. Something he had not been ready to look at while she was still in his immediate world. The Three of Swords reversed for you tonight means this. On the other side of the silence you have created, there is a person who is currently in a reckoning. Not a casual missing. A genuine, uncomfortable, unavoidable reckoning with what they had, what they did with it, and who they were in it. What was just exposed about you is your value, and it took your departure to make it visible. Card 4, the star, yes. Oh yes. Okay. Because after everything this reading has revealed the warmth they lost, the belief system your absence cracked, the grief they are now sitting in the star, comes in as the final message, and it is not for them. This card is for you. The star is the card of the divine feminine who has walked through the fire and come out of it not hardened, but clarified. Not closed, but more fully herself. The star is the card of someone who chose their own peace over the addiction of a connection that was not meeting them at their level. And that is you. That is the you that exists right now in the quiet of no contact. I want to tell you about a woman named Yara. Yara had been in a connection that had consumed 2.5 years of her emotional life. She did not go into no contact as a strategy to make him come back. I want to be very clear about that, because the star does not reward manipulation. Yara went into no contact because she had a conversation with herself that was the most honest conversation she had ever had. She sat with herself and she said, if nothing ever changes, if he never chooses me, if this connection never becomes what I have been hoping it becomes, am I willing to keep spending myself this way? And the answer was no. For the first time, the answer was an unambiguous, gentle, heartbroken no. And so she stopped. Not to prove something, not to win something, because she finally respected herself enough to stop pouring into a container that was not sealed. And here is what happened to Yara in no contact that she did not expect. She started coming back to herself. Slowly, then faster. Interest she had let fall away during the intensity of the connection started returning. Energy she had been routing toward managing someone else's emotional inconsistency became available for her own life. She started sleeping better, thinking more clearly, feeling, for the first time in years, like the protagonist of her own story rather than a supporting character in his. And the version of her that emerged from that no contact period calmer, cleaner, more rooted, more certain of her own worth, was actually the most magnetic version of herself she had ever been. Not because she was performing magnetism, because she had stopped leaking her energy everywhere, and it had pulled back into her own field, and it was visible. It was palpable. People around her noticed it before she did. That is the star. That is the card that is yours tonight. What was just exposed about you to the divine masculine in this connection is everything the previous three cards named. Your warmth, your significance, your value, your irreplaceability. But what the star is saying to you directly tonight, and this is the message I most need you to receive, is that the real gift of this no contact season is not what it is doing to them. It is what it is doing for you. The version of you that is being built in this silence is something they have not yet seen. And when the right time comes, whether that is with them or whether it is with someone who was always more aligned for you, that version of you is going to be something extraordinary. You did not lose anything by choosing your peace. You gained yourself back. And that is everything. Okay, loves, let me take a breath. If you made it to the end of this reading, there is a reason for that. There is a part of you that needed every single thing these four cards said. The confirmation that your absence is being felt. The understanding that something in them is cracking open. The acknowledgement that their grief over you is real and is happening right now, even in the silence. And the reminder, the most important one, that this season is not just about them. It is about you. It is about the version of you that is being restored in the quiet. I want to say one more thing before I close, because I feel strongly about this. No contact is not a game. It is not a tactic. If you went into it as a strategy to make them chase you, it may or may not produce that result, and that is honestly not something I can promise you either way. But if you went into it because your own peace required it, because you looked at the dynamic honestly and recognized that you were the one doing most of the loving and most of the carrying and most of the hoping, then what you did was one of the most spiritually mature things a person can do in a connection. You honored yourself, and that is never the wrong move. That is always the move that spirit backs. The cards tonight were clear. What was just exposed about you to this divine masculine is your worth, your depth, your irreplaceability. They are sitting with that exposure right now, whether they are showing it externally or not. And whatever happens next in this connection, you walk forward from here, knowing something that you may not have fully known when this started. You are not someone who can be picked up and put down at someone else's convenience. You are not someone whose value only becomes visible in your absence. You know your worth now. That knowing is yours to keep, regardless of what they choose. Please give this reading a like if it resonated with you tonight. It genuinely helps this message reach another divine feminine who is sitting in her no contact silence right now, wondering if any of it is landing. And if you are not subscribed yet, please join this community. There is more coming. For the extended reading with more specific messages about what happens next in this connection, what your guides see coming in the near future, and what they are advising you to do and not do right now, that is on Patreon. Link is in the first pinned comment. Personal one-on-one readings are also available through the link below if you want to go into your specific situation directly. I love you. I mean that. Take care of yourself first. Always first. See you in the next one. Bye, loves.